Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Today is 29th of August, Friday. So happy Friday, everybody. I hope you'll have a wonderful day and a great upcoming weekend. As always, I have prepared quite a number of news for a news segment on major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to, and I hope you will find news segment informative and interesting, useful, and if so, please, dear friends, like the video. And in case you are watching this video not right now, as I'm on air, but in few hours from now, then comment section is going to be available, and please leave some commentary there, share your take on any of their topics. More likes and comments most likely will help to deal with their algorithms artificial barriers to reach wider audience. Also, dear friends, for members of our Patreon and Boosty community, I will make announcement that yesterday late evening I published yet another extra that I made previous Sunday. Me and my family members were walking around the streets of Moscow, by the way, and at one occasion, on several occasions actually, we come across some concerts that was organized by city administration. Whole summer, by the way, if you are interested, whole summer there was a basically event under the name of Summer in Moscow, and in different parts of the city there was all sorts of concerts. Actually, good ones, by the way, good ones, because professional teams were involved. For example, in yesterday's video that I published on Patreon, members of community can see on a screen one of the top Russian sportsmen in ice skating, including Olympic champion, by the way. I don't think they can recognize the quality of video, of course, not as good as I would like to, but I myself was surprised when after spectacle ended, there was announcement of who was participating in it, and well, top grass athletes, by the way, in ice skating. And Russia is, of course, one of the leading countries in this field, including Olympic champion Sotnikova, by the way. I believe Adelina Sotnikova was participating too. So, yes. And then after that, there was a concert also, and I filmed several songs of one of their musicians, and I published it all, right? And hopefully community did find it interesting. Unfortunately, no new members on our Patreon Boosty community. But maybe things will change. Maybe things will change. As I said in my previous updates, I'm gonna try to publish extra content at least 4 or 5 times a week on weekdays for sure. I will try my best. And today, dear friends, I'm gonna publish second news update in walk and talk style, also on my Patreon. And please consider, dear friends, if you like my work, if you want to support her, then please consider to join our Patreon and Boosty or Boosty communities. By the way, links are on this video in the description box and and will be in the pinned comment after stream. So yes, that's it. Before I start new segment, let me just remind you that after stream I will join community chat, and you can use super chat feature on Rumble, dear friends, to donate to this project and also to highlight any question or the commentary that you want to be highlighted in a question time. Okay, that's being said, dear friends, let's go through some news now. And as the headline of this video says, the West is in hysteria again due to quite a large-scale Russian missile and drone strikes that happened yesterday. Right, and I will go through that topic a little late, but first of all, let me give you some other news. RIA Novosti is reporting, based on Russian Defense Ministry, that air defense systems on duty intercepted 54 drones overnight that was launched by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky and their NATO allies to strike deep into Russian territory. 18 drones were intercepted over the Bryansk region, 10 drones over the Crimea, 9 drones over the equator of Black Sea, 8 drones in the Tver region, 2 drones in Ariol, 2 drones each, by the way, in Ariol, Ryazan, and Tula regions, and each drone, 1 drone each in Kursk, Kaluga, and Novgorod regions. Unfortunately, geography of these long-range strikes deep into Russian territory is quite large, but yet again, we should keep in mind that this is not a Kiev regime alone that is conducting these attacks. This is NATO strikes on Russian Federation because targeting data, flight path for these drones, and in many cases, drones themselves are provided to Ukrainian terrorists by NATO member states. Unfortunately, as a result of last night's attack, high-rise apartment building was struck in Ariol region, and we have this report that number of casualties as a result of this drone attack on civilian area in Ariol increased to 4. I can give you some specifics on that. So number of victims in Ariol region as a result of their nighttime drone attack of terrorist regime of Zelensky increased to 4. They are receiving medical assistance. The region's governor, Andrei Klitschko, reported on a Telegram channel. And by the way, you constantly hear in Western propaganda outlets that Russia, false narratives, by the way, that Russia is intentionally targeting civilian areas and so on, which is all false, by the way. All of it is false, right? And you're never gonna hear on Western so-called media reports about civilian casualties on the Russian side, casualties that were actually civilians that were actually intentionally targeted by this terrorist regime of Zelensky. And clearly, by the way, you remember, veterans of our community remember that for quite a while, by the way, I did said and predicted that due to disaster that the regime and its NATO backers are experiencing on the battlefield, as Western always does, they will begin increasing terrorist attacks on Russia, and they will try to terrorize Russian society. And that's exactly what is happening. I predicted this over a year ago that this will happen, isn't it? And that's exactly what is happening. And time again, they are targeting Russian civilians. And how many times I did share videos, by the way, when apartment buildings were hit. And this is drones, by the way. You have to put flight path in it and the targeting data, right? So when drone, and in many cases, multiple drones are targeting same civilian area, then you know for sure that this is not some kind of mistake. This is intentional strike on civilians, right? But did you ever hear about these terror attacks that NATO and Kiev regime conducting in the Western media? Did they ever report about it? Of course not. Of course not. Let's continue with some other news. And RIA Novosti is reporting that Defense Minister of the Russian Federation, Belosov, inspected the Center Group of Forces. So Defense Minister Andrei Belosov inspected Center Group of Forces, and here the reports from the command staff Defense Ministry is reporting. So we have quote from the reporter Andrei Belosov, while working at the command post of the Sand Group of Forces, heard reports from the command staff and staff officers on the current situation and the actions of the troops to destroy the enemy in the area of responsibility, the statement said. The commander of the group, Colonel General Valery Salachuk, reported to the minister on the execution of combat missions, taking into account their active use of unmanned aircraft, as well as on logistical support of their troops. Belosov was introduced to a database on the destruction of UAVs and drones and the software package created on his orders. He was introduced to strike drones, by the way. There was a little demonstration there, and also software that is used in these drones to target enemy, a system for automatic flight of drones according to specified coordinates without operator intervention. Basically, AI is becoming more and more involved, by the way, in drone warfare. AI is being taught basically how to recognize and differ uh, hostile from our troops, how to designate military hardware of the enemy, and how to prioritize then this military hardware. And that means, I guess, if a drone sees a tank, for example, MBT, and just a pickup truck that is used by enemy forces, then probably drone will prioritize tank, MBT, main battle tank, to strike. Which is understandable. Of course, MBT can cause much more severe damage than pickup truck that are usually used for logistical purposes and to move around small group of forces. Ground control systems of drones using radio frequencies and modern electronic warfare systems were also showed to defense minister. Ground-based robotic systems that deliver material and the technical resources and the provisions to personnel remotely mined and their terrain. Remotely mine the terrain, install non-explosive barriers, and destroy enemy fortifications and the manpower using high-power cumulative charge. And well, it is also true, dear friends, that it's not just aerial drone warfare is taking place on unprecedented scale, but also more and more often ground drones are deployed. And I shared on my Telegram and Twitter X pages quite a number of videos when when Russian side is deploying Russian troops, these ground drones. In some occasions, ground drones are evacuating wounded military personnel. In some other cases, ground drones are entering their basically stronghold of enemy and then detonating, right, obliterating everything in a radius of, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 meters, if not more. So yes, ground drone warfare is also becoming a significant part of this conflict. And what is also needs to be pointed out, by the way, whenever high-ranking Russian military officials, being defense minister Belarusov or head of general staff Gerasimov, are visiting any of their directions on the line of contact, any of the group of forces, usually after a week or two, we are seeing significant activization on those exactly directions. Maybe this is just coincident, maybe no, I don't know, but we should expect a significant increase in offensive operations, so sectoral scale offensive operations from Russian SAND group of forces. Also, their friends, TASS news agency is reporting, based on defense ministry, that Russian troops liberated Nilepovka settlement in DPR. I reported about progress of the Russian armed forces in Nilepovka area a few days ago. And well, I said it will take probably a day or two before Russian defense ministry, being very conservative institution, acknowledges this progress. And that's exactly what happened. After like 48 hours, I believe defense ministry acknowledged that yes, Nilepovka settlement in the DPR is liberated now in under full Russian control. Also, TASS news agency is reporting, and many other media outlets reported about destruction of one of the warships of the Kiev regime in the Danube River. By the way, so report is that the representatives of the Ukrainian, and they confirmed, by the way, our enemies confirmed this information. So representative of the Ukrainian Navy, so-called Navy, Dmitry Pletenchuk, admitted that one of the Ukrainian military ships was hit by Russian unmanned maritime drone, right? So it's not just Turkey regime, but Russian side is also beginning to actively deploy maritime drones. Some media outlets, by the way, yesterday reported that this is the first time when Russia deployed the maritime drones, which is not really true. In the Danube River, yes, I have not heard before about maritime drones being deployed by Russian forces in the Danube River. But when it comes to general use of maritime drones, then well, Russian side did use drones in the Dnieper River, for example. I'm quite sure about it. I still remember video footage, by the way, that I did even share on my Telegram and Twitter X page when Russian maritime drones were deployed. But yet again, Russian side was working actively to further enhance these maritime drones, maritime drone capabilities, and now Russian drones are reaching Danube River, operating there. And it's not just a maritime drone, but also aerial drones were also circulating in our area, and we have a footage, dear friends, on this strike. And let me show you this footage, dear friends. So this is a Danube River, and this is a vessel of the Kiev regime. And at last second, there seems like crew of this surveillance vessel, by the way, did spotted a Russian drone only in the last few seconds, and they did try to run away, but it was, I guess, too late at that point. And then you can see explosion. And according to reports, this vessel of the Kiev regime was sunk as a result of this attack. Good success on side of Russian militaries, of course, and I expect more and more Russian maritime drones to become operational in the Danube Delta and on the Danube River itself. So if Kiev regime was able before now to actively use portal cities on the Danube River in Odessa region, then from now on, probably they're going to have some hardship receiving military equipment and munition through that route, which is a good, by the way, which is a good information, of course. And this is how that vessel looks like, by the way, that Russian troops are neutralized with their maritime drone. It's a not massive vessel. It was a surveillance vessel, recognition and surveillance vessel of the Kiev regime that was probably actively used by NATO instructors, so-called NATO instructors that are helping Kiev regime to orchestrate operations in the Black Sea, in the southern sectors. And usually, by the way, when it comes to southern sectors, it's British intelligence officers and British special or secret services, right? And British Defense Ministry special forces that are active there. And therefore, I would not be surprised at all if sometime in the future we will find out that as a result of this strike on this vessel, a number of citizens of UK from their intelligence community and their MOD were also neutralized. It seems logical to me that that most likely there were some British officers on board of that vessel. Anyways, let's continue, dear friends, with some more news. And well, as I said, Western propaganda outlets, Western so-called politicians and the public figures are in complete meltdown and hysteria after yesterday's relatively large-scale Russian missile and drone strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of their Kiev regime. Many drones and missiles are targeted military facilities or facilities of the military-industrial complex of Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky in Kiev itself. Yesterday, I shared a video, for example, of one of the such strikes, and well, significant damage was done, by the way, to our enemies, which is definitely good news. But it did happen that not far away from those facilities of military-industrial complex of the Kiev regime that are actively used to build some weapon systems. Well, not far away from those facilities, there were some, British Council building, some offices of EU or something like that. They were damaged as a result of blast, by the way. They were not directly targeted. They just experienced some damage because primary target was, of course, this military facilities and military industrial complex in general. And well, they began, whining about these strikes and how Russia is intentionally targeting civilian areas and all that kind of crap. By the way, Russia is not targeting intentionally civilian areas, and unfortunately, every now and then there is a collateral damage. But yet again, this is a high intensity war. This is a proxy war that West is waging against Russia, and if anyone to be blamed, it's a collective Western ruling class. Period. By the way, right? That's how I see the situation. That's how majority of us here in Russia see the situation. We don't want this war. It's a West that provoked it, and we will do whatever is necessary to do to defend ourselves. That's how it is. And if these so-called Western media outlets, by the way, and the politicians that are now whining about these Russian strikes, actually want to see how it looks when civilians being targeted intentionally, then they can look no any further than Gaza Strip. They can look at the situation there, and they will see difference between intentional targeting of civilians and civilian areas and strikes on military facilities, right? Does Kiev looks like Gaza City? No, it does not, right? It does not. It is what it is, right? And no one can argue with that. Maybe with the exception of Western propagandists, by the way. I mean, they are such a disgrace of humanity that they can say anything, literally anything, right? But our community knows perfectly well that there is a great deal of difference between how Gaza City looks or Gaza Strip in general, even, right? And Kiev, for example, or Odessa, or Lvov, by the way, or Poltava, or other cities, by the way, that are far away from line of contact, but time to time, Russian armed forces are conducting long-range precise strikes on military and logistical infrastructure there. So, well, let them be hysterical, by the way. Let them be hysterical. We just don't care about it. If civilians were harmed as a result of, as a collateral damage as a result of these Russian strikes on military and logistical infrastructure, of course, that is tragic and very unfortunate. But yet again, Russia, it's Kiev regime that is not evacuating these military facilities from those areas. Let them take them out of their cities, and there will be no collateral damage in that case, right? Anyways, by the way, let me share with you this report from RIA Novosti about last night's strikes. So Russian troops launched a group strike on Ukrainian air bases and the military industrial complex enterprises, the Defense Ministry of the Russian Federation reported. And we have quote here. This is yesterday's report, by the way. So tonight, that is last night, night before yesterday. We all understand what am I talking about. So group strike was carried out using long-range air-launched high-precision weapons, including Kinzhal hypersonic aero ballistic missiles, and the strike unmanned aerial vehicles against the military-industrial complex enterprises and the military air bases in Ukraine. It is noted that their attack objectives have been achieved. All designated enemy targets have been hit and destroyed. So that's the official statement of Russian Defense Ministry. And friends, if you are interested, what is the statistics that Russian Defense Ministry is sharing in regards to losses of our enemy in terms of military equipment, well, let me give you these numbers, by the way. 666 aircrafts of the Kiev regime were destroyed since the beginning of special military operation. Also 283 helicopters, more than 80,000 drones, 625 different type of air defense systems, more than 24,000 of almost 25,000 armored combat vehicles, by the way. That is everything: tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, everything that has armor, right? More than 24,000, almost 25,000 of armored combat vehicles were destroyed. Also, more than 1,500 multi-launch rocket systems, more than 29,000 field artillery pieces and mortars, and more than 40,000 units of special military vehicles. And this includes, of course, all sorts of pickup trucks and that kind of stuff that the regime is using for military purposes. So quite impressive numbers there. And most of it, by the way, comes from NATO, either sourced by NATO all over the world when it comes to Soviet era built equipment, or being produced by NATO member states. So almost 25,000 different type of armored vehicles, by the way, were destroyed by Russian forces. You have seen how much Western propaganda loves to talk about how Russia is running out of infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, tanks, and this and that, all that kind of nonsense. And we are hearing this basically since 2022, right? Since 2022, constantly, by the way. That's one of the permanent line of propaganda of the West, that Russia is running out of weapons, right? Including armored vehicles, which is, of course, a crazy idea to even think about. Russia has, probably in reserve much more military vehicles that were even used in this special military operation. I have no doubts about that. Although, unfortunately, of course, we are also losing some equipment. But when it comes to enemy, by the way, almost 25,000 armored combat vehicles. And I guess a real number is even higher, because the Russian Defense Ministry, they are conservative and they only count stuff that they can actually confirm. When they have drones operating in the area and they can actually see hit, destruction, they will count it. Otherwise, they would not, by the way. Otherwise, they would not. And therefore, just imagine a column of Ukrainian terrorists with their, let's say, free breadlies are moving in some area, right? And at the moment of strike of Russian, let's say, I don't know, artillery or whatever, just imagine there was no drone, by the way, to film it. Russian militaries were there. They spot the enemy, destroy it, but there was no video confirmation of the strike. And therefore, I'm quite sure Russian Defense Ministry would not count that column that was destroyed as a result of artillery strike. That's how conservative this institution is, by the way. They need concrete evidences that, yes, this was done. Okay, you destroyed this, and this, right? And okay, we will count that. And there is another reason why this is done, by the way. Russian militaries, for destroyed every armored vehicle, every tank, every this and that, are receiving bonuses, right, as a payment. So there is that reason too. Before paying someone anything, you need the actual confirmation that, yes, this is not some kind of anecdote that one military destroyed 3 enemy tanks, but this is actual reality, and there is footage of that. There is witnesses that can confirm this. So that's how Defense Ministry is operating, right? So real number when it comes to losses of their enemies, I think significantly higher than this. Anyways, dear friends, on topic of Western hysteria, or hysteria of Western so-called elites, well, the Russian Foreign Ministry basically find it necessary to react. We have a statement from Maria Zakharova. So the Russian armed forces strike only at military facilities and sites that support the armed forces of Ukraine, according to a commentary by Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova regarding the media reports on their summoning of Russian representatives to the EU, to the European External Action Service, after the EU mission building in Kiev was damaged following overnight airstrikes. Okay, Russian representative was summoned. Who gives a damn about it, by the way? Russian troops are targeting military, legit targets, right? And if it happens that there is European some offices there, not far away, or British embassy or British consul or whatever, too bad, man. We just don't care. We will take out our enemy military capabilities, and if British embassy will go down too in a process, I would not care, honestly, man. I would not care. And I don't think that many people here in Russia would care, man. UK leadership demonstrated time and again that they are our enemies, literally. British aristocracy, British royal family, British elites are historical enemy of Russia, patriot of Russia, and everything Russian is in their genome at this point, I guess, because for centuries, by the way, this patriot is cultivated from generation to generation there, right? And especially among elites, by the way, right? So therefore, but you should not expect any sorry from us, from me for sure, by the way, if even British embassy, by the way, will be obliterated completely. Not intentionally, but if the regime has a freaking military facility right next to embassy, and if they hope that, well, Russia's not going to strike because of the close proximity from the embassy, and if Russia will strike and the embassy is damaged, then okay, I don't give a damn. Main point is that we don't target civilian areas intentionally. That's it. Otherwise, well, collateral damage is collateral damage. And yet again, if anybody wants to see how it looks when civilian areas actually are targeted intentionally, then look no any further than Gaza City or the Gaza Strip. That's it, right? And there will be no questions left unanswered, right? So yes, Russian Foreign Ministry said it straight. We are targeting military sites, and that's it. Basically, there is not much to talk about there. But nevertheless, Western hysteria continues, by the way, and press spokesman of the White House, or US President Donald Trump, Caroline Leavitt, was asked about it also, and well, she said that Trump is not happy about it and that kind of stuff. Okay, by the way, I'm not happy that Andromeda Galaxy will collapse, will hit our galaxy in about 2 billion years or something, right? Sometime in the future, let's say. But what can I do about it? I can be not happy that Andromeda is threatening our Milky Way, but well, I have to live with that, right? And if anything, there is a cold water, I can drink it and calm my nerves down. So I will recommend that to Trump too. I mean, who cares if he's happy or not, man? What the heck is that? This is new nonsense, by the way, or next level of nonsense in Western tremendously degenerated political class, when politicians are talking with this language. I'm not happy about it. I mean, seriously? Holy moly, man. But anyways, let me give you a short clip of this a statement of Leavitt on this matter.
That took place overnight in Ukraine. General Keith Kellogg, the president's special envoy, has described these attacks as egregious. Do you agree with that description, and do you view President Putin as an impediment to getting peace between these two countries?
Well, it's not about if I agree, it's about what the president thinks, and I know what the president thinks because I talked to him about this. He was not happy about this news, but he was...
What is this, dear friends? I mean, he is not happy. I mean, what the hell are you talking about? Is this some kind of a street talk? Or this is a high-level political institution that is talking? What the hell, man? He is not happy. Really, I'm not happy too that, well, there is a high pressure on Venus, by the way. And what can I do about it, for God's sake? I mean, I'm so unhappy that, I cannot freaking, sleep at night. Can you imagine that?
Is also not surprised. These are two countries that have been at war for a very long time. Russia launched this attack on Kyiv, and likewise, Ukraine recently dealt a blow to Russia's oil refineries. They have taken out, as a matter of fact, 20% of Russia's oil refinery capacity over the course of their attacks throughout the month of August.
And she's lying, by the way. She's lying there because Kyiv regime did not took out 20% or 30% or 40 or 50% of Russian oil refinery capabilities in August. Or it just pure lies, by the way. I don't know if they are fact-checking information any longer in the White House. They just coming up with some numbers, and this was started not by Trump's administration necessarily, but nowadays we are just seeing some next level of BS coming out from White House, isn't it? You remember Trump was fixated on some 5,000 number some time ago, that 5,000 troops are dying from this side and that side. Then I don't know, maybe he was briefed that this number is incorrect, and he started using 7,000 number, and he is now talking about 7,000 troops are dying, and tomorrow probably someone will tell, you know what, I mean, 7,000 is incorrect too. Okay, regime is losing much more actually, and he will be fixated on something else without providing actual or factual information, right? This is not okay, man. This is not the way things should be. But press spokesman of the White House or Trump is doing the same. She's just coming up with some freaking numbers, I mean, without any confirmation, any evidence, just nothing. Okay, man, that's the level of our political class there in US.
So the president is continuing to watch this intently, and this killing, unfortunately, will continue as long as the war continues, which is why the president wants it to end, and that's why he's worked harder than anyone to end this war, which would have never started if he were president.
Information, false narrative there. If Trump or administration in US really wanted this conflict to end, then stop sharing intelligence, stop sending weapons, directly or indirectly. If you actually are for peace, then stop prolonging this conflict. It's that simple. This is not a freaking quantum physics, for God's sake, to get lost in it, right? This is quite simple stuff. If you want conflict to end, then don't send weapons, don't send money, don't send intelligence, right? Get out of this proxy war. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the hell is wrong with these people, but they clearly are thinking in a very strange ways. I mean, this political leadership of US.
But perhaps both sides of this war are not ready to end it themselves. The president wants it to end, but the leaders of these two countries need it to end and want it to end, must want it to end as well. And I think the president will make some additional statements on this later.
At least, dear friends, at least Caroline Lewitt was not hysterical as many other public figures in the West, including US, by the way. At least she said, you know what, this is war, and things happen, right? And Trump is unhappy about it, whatever that means, right? But yes, this is war, and that's it. So she was not hysterical, which is I will say good sign, by the way. I will say good sign. At least there is some level of understanding that this is a high-intensity conflict that was provoked by the West and will continue until West will acknowledge that they lost and they will agree on a concession to Russia and capitulate. Until that moment, this conflict will continue. That's it. Also, dear friends, let me share with you this reporter that Washington promises Trump's speech on Ukraine situation. So United States believe that Russia and Ukraine are not ready to end the conflict. Now, White House Press Secretary Caroline Lewitt said there during their briefing. You just saw the video where she was talking about it. And according to her, US President Donald Trump intends to make additional statements on the situation in Ukraine soon. Okay, by the way, maybe today he will share his opinions there. I don't know. We all remember, by the way, there was some 2 weeks ultimatum, isn't it, from Trump that I guess is either expired or is about to expire, and maybe he will say something about it. He was demanding since the courage, basically, or constantly talking about meeting to take place between Trump and Putin and Zelensky, in which Trump might also participate. And I said straight away that this is not happening, by the way. Russian Zelensky, but to organize such a meeting, some issues have to be resolved, right? Otherwise, what is the point to have a meeting? And Russian other high-ranking officials were also very clear on that, including foreign minister. And so, yes, let's see what Trump gonna say. Probably he will address this topic. That he was hoping that meeting will take place, but he did not enter. Then he will probably come up with some more threats towards Russia, as he always does, man. Maybe for domestic purposes, maybe he actually is threatening Russia. You just don't know. With Trump, you just don't know whomever is actually pulling the strings in Washington, in the White House, and so on. Anyways, dear friends, that's all I want. Strikes, they give them any opportunity. Those are Russia haters in the West. Give them any opportunity to become hysterical, they will. And quite often, they don't even need a reason to be hysterical. Hysteria becoming their constant state, right? So therefore, pay attention to their hysterical stance no more, right? Anyways, of course, you are informed that there is a significant escalation between the Kyiv regime, this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, and Hungarian leadership. Well, we have this report that Hungary basically banned entry into its country, and in the Schengen zone, commander of one of the units regime that, according to Hungary, was engaging Hungary and Slovakia with their Russian oil, right? And Ukrainian foreign ministry officials, including Andrei Sibiga, is their foreign minister, isn't it now? Responded on Hungary. Then foreign minister of Poland gets engaged, by the way, in this, what should we call it? And let me give you some details on that, dear friends. So Peter Szijjártó, the foreign minister of Hungary, writes that this is not our war. We are not responsible for it. We did not launch it. We have not been participating in it. Stop provoking us. Stop risking our security, and stop making efforts to drag us into a war. Peter Szijjártó responded basically to some commentary from Andrei Sibiga, who is the foreign minister, I believe, of this Kyiv regime, right? And as I said, Hungary also banned entry to its territory, and also for one of the Ukrainian neo-Nazi formations, which was based on Hungary's information, engaged in these attacks on Druzhba pipeline, and that commander is ethnic Hungarian, by the way. Probably, some of you might be surprised that this Ukrainian Nazi is ethnic Hungarian. He's not freaking Ukrainian. There is no such a thing as a Ukrainian, by the way. Those people that call themselves Ukrainians and running around with the Nazi symbolic and stuff, they all actually are either Russians, ethnic Russians, by the way, or ethnic Poles, or ethnic Hungarians, or Romanians, by the way, right? And this is exactly the case in regards to that personality. And by the way, as I said, Radislav between Kiev and Budapest, and he wrote, while Russian missiles rain death on Kiev, Hungary bans a brave ethnic Hungarian who dares to fight for Ukraine's freedom. That so-called ethnic Hungarian, not so-called, he gives a damn about his Hungarian roots. He don't give a damn about people of Hungary. Otherwise, he would not harm Hungary, right? While attacking, orchestrating, or participating in these attacks on the Druzhba pipeline. He's Ukrainian Nazi. That person was brainwashed to the levels where he hates Hungarians no any less than he hates Russians. And Radislav Sikorski knows this, but for whatever reason, Warsaw wants to escalate with their Budapest, maybe because they brought a couple of K2 tanks from Apache helicopters from US. Maybe Polish leadership thinks now that there are some sort of a power there that can mess around other countries. Well, they are not. And Hungary will teach them a lesson, by the way, if necessary. And I believe Hungary wouldn't be alone. So better Warsaw will be careful and stop messing around this much. Otherwise, they're gonna get smacked, by the way, big time, right? But anyways, let me continue. While Russian missiles rain death on Kiev, Hungary, that's Sikorski's word, who dares to fight for Ukraine's freedom. Commander Magyar, if you need some errand there, whatever that means, and Hungary won't let you in, please be our guest in Poland. That's his statement. And last time I checked, by the way, President of Poland said that prizing Nazi collaborators that killed over 100,000 Poles during the Second World War are not welcomed in Hungary. And this criminal that was banned by Hungary itself is definitely Nazi, not just Nazi sympathizer, he is a freaking Nazi. So Radislav Sikorski should check his statements with his president first before inviting Ukrainian Nazi into Polish territory. And I don't think Polish people, by the way, are going to be happy about this statement because what the hell, man? Polish people have memory, historical memory, and they know that their fellow brothers and sisters, their fellow citizens were massacred by Ukrainian Nazis. Tens of thousands of them, right? And it is shame on Warsaw that they are standing shoulder to shoulder with those Nazis, man. It's a shame on Polish so-called elites. Maybe they think, well, it is a good deal for them to be a situational ally of those Nazis against Russia, but Poland gonna pay a heavy price for these crimes, probably, that they committed against Russia while supporting Ukrainian Nazis. If you think, Ukrainian Nazis not going to turn on Poland and begin exterminating Polish people, well, you are mistaken. Those Ukrainian Nazis going to be menace for Polish civilians and Polish militaries once again, as it was the case during the Second World War. Mark my words, dear friends. Mark my words, and Polish people should get ready, by the way. What is about to happen to many of them, right? They should get ready, by the way. And Peter Sijarto then responded to Radislav Sikorski's statement, endangering Hungary's energy security has nothing to do with the freedom of Ukraine, Peter Sijarto stated, and this is also true, by the way. And I think it is a shame to talk about some freedom and independence in regards to this so-called Ukraine. By the way, no one is free there, with the exception of Nazis, right? And up to 2014, barely anybody, who has objective take, can call it's a colony of the West, right? Period. That's the truth. So I don't know. Only already brainwashed people probably will take their statements that, well, Ukraine fights for freedom, Ukraine is independent. Only morons and already brainwashed and brain dead elements probably will take that seriously. Otherwise, no one will, right? But yes, it is interesting. It is interesting that things are escalating between not just Kiev and Budapest, but also Warsaw is getting engaged in this row. And I will just recommend Hungarian political cluster. Just get real. A statement's not gonna help. According to reports yesterday, Druzhba pipeline began operating again, and let's see how many days it will take before Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky will strike again. They might strike at any time, today maybe, or tomorrow. So if Hungary wants to secure itself, then you know what, you have militaries, right? You have secret services. Take action. Take action. And strike back. That's it, man. That's the only way, by the way. You cannot talk with the Nazis and the fascists and expect some serious results, positive results, right? Anyways, let's continue with some more news. RT is reporting that Trump allegedly is frustrated with the EU and Ukraine, which is okay, interesting. So US President Donald Trump has shown frustration with Ukraine and the EU over their stance on resolving the conflict between Moscow and Kiev. The Atlantic has reported Trump. However, in recent days, Trump has privately complained. Trump met Russian President, by the way, Vladimir Putin in Alaska, as we all know, this month, and later hosted Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky in Washington. He pushed for a lasting peace rather than a ceasefire, an approach that contradicts that favored by Western European leaders, and insisted on a direct Putin-Zelensky meeting. However, in recent days, Trump has privately complained that his high-profile diplomacy has produced no results. Some officials close to the White House told the magazine he has directed some frustration at Zelensky and the EU for being unrealistic in their demands, saying Ukraine would need to give up some territory to end the conflict. The sources claimed he just wants this war over. It almost does not matter how. A senior official told this magazine, and well, I don't know if we can trust or not this Atlantic's sources or Atlantic itself, this magazine, but I can imagine that during the Anchorage talks, Russian side, not just Russian president, but also Russian delegation, offered their Saturn how should I say, come up with certain ideas that are much more interesting, or should be much more interesting to America First forces than further engagement in this proxy war against Russia. So therefore, I can believe that America First forces and their formal representative Trump would like to see potentially end of the conflict in Ukraine, or maybe to pull out US from this conflict, right? So that they will be in a position to then do some negotiations with the Russian side and start working on some deals that might benefit two sides tremendously, right? So if this is the case, then that will explain frustration on part of Trump or on part of America First people. But yet again, some actions are needed. I mean, Trump can openly say that, well, these freaking globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe don't want this war to end, right? They are determined to achieve this sickening idea of strategical defeat of Russia, which is not going to happen. But they still believe in this nonsense, and therefore they are willing to sacrifice everybody. They are willing to continue this proxy war as long as they physically can, technically. Actually come out and say it, and people would understand it, right? His supporters, or America First supporters, that might no longer support Trump personally because he's a big disappointment for them, but nevertheless, there are people that are America, US should get out of this war, right? So instead of making these freaking nonsensical statements and messy playing around, right? Come up and say it as it is, man, and people will understand. And then began negotiating with Russia, pull out US from this conflict, began negotiating, right? Agree on concessions for all the harm that US done to Russian citizens, to Russian Federation. And after these concessions, there might be prospects, you know, prospects might open and will open in that case for very serious cooperation in a number of directions that will benefit tremendously both countries and the rest of the world. I have no doubts about it. And I did spoke about this topic in previous updates, isn't it? So, oh, there is Anya is telling me now that there is a sound issues again. So, okay. There is a serious issues with our sound. Oh, this is unfortunate, man. Okay, I will remove some of their stuff. And okay, by the way, I will just delete some pages that I have already shared. Maybe CPU, maybe there is some issues with the operational memory on a notebook. Okay. Yeah. And so yes, hopefully sound is better now. I don't know. So okay. Okay, sorry, dear friends, if there was issues with the sound there. Yet again, I do understand that I have to invest in better equipment, and maybe I will be in that position sometime in the future. But right now, I just cannot. So I don't even know what to do to deal with this technical stuff. And so, dear friends. Yes, that's the report that Trump is frustrated. Okay, by the way, he can actually take some actions to achieve results. All he have to do is stop playing around and just come up and say it straight as it is, right? Where U.S. stands, where is their best interest of the U.S. people, right? And those people will support the idea of pulling out U.S. from this war. I'm quite sure about it, man. Trump was elected based on the promise that U.S. will be out of these forever wars, right? So he will have support. So just pull out U.S. from this proxy war, and let Russia then deal with their globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe. We will take care of them. We will take care of you all, right? We will take care of entire collective West. By the way, it might take just a little longer. And after all, we just don't have to be hostile or enemies towards each other, Russia and US. That's the key point that we need to understand. I mean, Moscow and Washington, right? We can benefit tremendously and benefit rest of the world with their cooperation, not the hostility. Europe is doomed, by the way. Europe is doomed. There is nothing can be done to help Europe. It's finished, right? Give it 20, 30 years and modern Europe that was dreaming about dominating the world will become as relevant region of this world as let's say, you know, Argentina and Chile and the rest are in South America. They are important, by the way, no doubts about that, but they are not dominant force in on the geopolitical scale, right? Let's be real here. So that's the, in best case of scenario, that's the destiny of Europe, by the way, to be as loosely relevant or completely irrelevant on the geopolitical scale as Argentina, Chile, and the rest of the countries in the south, on the southern part of South America are. You know. Anyways, let me continue. Kommersant newspaper is reporting that Europe is discussing creating a 40-kilometer buffer zone in Ukraine. Well, globalists and globalist control regimes, as I said, they are dreaming about achieving strategical defeat of Russian Federation, and they're constantly coming up with ideas in order to continue this proxy war and justify that. They are constantly coming up with ideas that they know that Moscow wouldn't accept, right? And there is exactly that idea, by the way, in this report that, well, they're going to create some 40-kilometer buffer zone and then bring their troops in and that kind of freaking nonsense, right? On daily basis, more and more Western propaganda outlets are pushing these freaking narratives. So today is no exception. Political reports that Europe discussed creating 40-kilometer buffer zone in Ukraine. European leaders are discussing such a possibility to create this buffer zone on the front line between Russia and Ukraine as a part of a peace deal. This opinion is one of those being discussed, although there is no consensus among the officials on the depth of the zone. The newspaper notes, political notes, that also notes that it is unknown whether Kiev will agree to this option. I mean, who is asking Kiev, by the way? What are you talking about? Since it may imply territorial concessions, the United States is not participating in these discussions. The number of troops needed to patrol the border also remain in question. The publication added, officials are discussing between 4,000 and 60,000 troops. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, difference between 4,000 and 60,000. They have no freaking idea. The only reason why they are coming up with these topics is to basically prolong this conflict, right? They know Moscow will not accept a deployment of any troops, either 4 troops, literally 4 troops from NATO, or 4,000 troops, or 40,000, or 60,000, or 100,000. It's completely unacceptable for Moscow, so therefore they are coming up with these ideas to kind of paint this false narrative that they are working on a resolution, right? They want peace, but in reality they don't. They know Moscow will reject it, and then they will say, you see, Moscow don't want peace, and therefore we have to continue. That's whole agenda, by the way. And you know what? We are ready. We are ready, by the way. If America First Forces will actually manage to pull out US from this proxy war, then these globalist control regimes in Europe not gonna last any longer than, I don't know, 3 to 5 months, man. And we will force them to submission. We will force them to capitulate. That's it, right? Without US, they are no force, by the way. These globalists are no force without US. With US, they are, right? We will take care of them anyways, of course. But if US is still engaged in this proxy war, it will just take little longer, right? Just little longer, but eventually they will all capitulate anyways. That's how it is, man, and there can be no doubts on that, right? Also, well, I don't know who asked Merzer about the topic of Putin-Zelensky meeting and why anybody thought that opinion of Merz is relevant. But he was asked, by the way, he was asked about it. And German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has stated that it is obvious that a summit between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky will not take place. Wow, I mean, what a genius this Merz is, isn't it? He come up now finally to their idea. I mean, he realized now something that I was talking about, I don't know, since forever, I guess, right? Of course, Russian president will waste no time to talking to Zelensky to meet him, especially now. By the way, if some miracle happens, globalists will realize that well they are finished, right, and it's better for them actually to de-escalate and agree on the concessions before Russia, right, and to end this war, this proxy war that they are waging. In that case, of course, they will tell Kyiv regime what to do, how, and when, and well, there will be resolution of the conflict, right? Kyiv will accept all the terms of the Russian Federation, and well, then only issue I can see right now will be a legitimacy of a person that will sign up from Kyiv's side, right, on whatever agreements are reached. And once that issue is resolved too, then okay, Russian president will definitely, I'm quite sure, take time and will meet with a representative of the Kyiv regime who will have at least some level of legitimacy. It can be Zelensky if presidential elections are held on Kyiv-controlled territory, and if he will be appointed again, let's say, by the West as a president, appointed because no one gonna believe that elections were free or fair, but nevertheless, it's elections, right? So therefore, whomever will win that elections will have at least partial legitimacy, and that's enough, I guess. That will be enough in this crisis situation to accept that personality who will be signatory from Kyiv regime side, and the Russian president will meet him, Zelensky or whomever else, by the way. But this is not happening. Globalists are not there yet, right? Globalists still dream about achieving strategical defeat of Russia, and therefore they're not going to stop. They're going to continue escalate, and they will use whatever leverage they have over the U.S. political class to keep U.S. in this proxy war, right? And so therefore, I'm afraid this conflict would not end, unfortunately, anytime soon. It might last for another year, maybe another 2 years, even 3 years, as long as it takes, by the way, right? Russia is on the right side of history, we all know that, and we will force our enemies to submission and to capitulate. It is what it is. There are going to be no negotiations, by the way, right? No one should be mistaken. There are going to be no negotiations. Western so-called elites will come to terms that they have lost, and they will agree on Russian terms, and they will capitulate. That's how this is going to be, right? They cannot talk for their domestic public. They can come up with whatever crazy statements. We don't give a damn about it. But what actually matters is that they will capitulate. It's only a matter of time. And yes, once a while, even Merz might say something that makes sense. Of course, Russian president will waste no time to meet Zelensky now. Impossible. Well, I was saying this for I don't know how long, right? RT is also reporting that Germany, meanwhile, greenlights voluntary military service for teens. So Berlin seeks to enlist up to 40,000 young people annually to create the strongest army on the continent. Okay, by the way, German cabinet has approved a draft law introducing voluntary military service to teenagers as a part of a wider militarization pushed by officials who have repeatedly claimed that Berlin must be ready to war by the next decade. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz vowed to turn their Bundeswehr into the strongest conventional army in Europe in a speech delivered less than a week after the world marked the 80th anniversary of the fall of the Third Reich in May. President Frank-Walter Steinmeier stated in July that volunteer enlistment alone may not be enough to achieve their goal. During the special season held in a secure bunker at their defense ministry in Berlin on Wednesday. Why are they in a bunker, by the way? I mean, We are not dropping bombs and missiles yet, and may not in the future if Berlin will behave accordingly. But anyways, during the special season held in a secure bunker at the Defense Ministry in Berlin on Wednesday, the German cabinet approved a new program targeting up to 40,000 young recruits annually by 2031. The Bundeswehr must grow, only then is deterrence against Russia truly credible. I mean, come on, man. This is not about Russia. This is all about Poland, by the way. Germany is afraid of Poland. That's what it is. They might not say it. They will justify anything with their imaginary Russian threat, of course. If Berlin not gonna attack us, we're not gonna attack Germany, man. I mean, it's so obvious, isn't it? Why on earth we will attack Germany if not provoked, man? Right? So German militarization is not about Russia in reality. It's about its own safety, by the way, and it's about former German territories. I guess that people of Germany will demand to be given back to Germany from Poland and by Poland after Warsaw will reclaim its eastern territories that are now part of Western Ukraine. And right now, by the way, Germany's army, I mean, Bundeswehr is a total joke, right? I mean, literally, it's a total joke, by the way. Probably Polish army, which is not really that great as our Polish elites are thinking, probably Polish army will beat German armed forces in a couple of months' time. They will defeat them. So Germany is militarizing to deal with Poland first of all. And Russia is just the justification for this imaginary threat from Russia. And by the way, I said a million times before, give it 10, 15 years and we're going to see military conflict between Germany and Poland. It's inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable in my personal opinion, right? And we're going to be around, I hope so, to acknowledge that, yes, this long-term prediction was correct, right? So anyways, the Bundeswehr must grow, only then is deterrence against Russia truly credible. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius claimed, reporting their NATO taking points about the looming Russian attack. Moscow has dismissed these speculations as nonsense, which is true, by the way. I mean, we don't give a damn about any of the European countries, by the way, right? Literally, I mean, we just don't care, man. If you don't provoke us, we would not do nothing, right? Because we just don't care. Do your thing, be happy, be successful, do whatever you want. Just don't mess around us, right? And we just don't care, man. We don't give a damn what you're gonna do. It's a honest, obvious take, right? So therefore, of course, it is a nonsense to think that for no reason Russia will attack any country anywhere, by the way, not just in Europe, but literally anywhere. Why would we, man? We have so much stuff to do, right? Anyways, this plan, by the way, that they have would require 18-year-old males to complete questionnaire assessing their willingness and their fitness to serve beginning in January 2026. The questionnaire would be optional for women. Selected candidates would undergo a minimum of 6 months of basic training. The initial intake is capped at around 20,000 recruits next year due to logistical constraints, with a gradual expansion planned over the next 6 years. And let's be real, I don't think they're going to be successful drafting 20,000 youngsters in Germany. I mean, maybe they will take youngsters from orphanages, maybe, but young Germans that just finished school, by the way, I don't think they really want to serve in the freaking army in Germany and potentially die for God knows what, right? Somewhere somewhere, let's say this way, right? Because we should keep in mind, by the way, that there was too many threats from Berlin to be ignored. Too many threats that they will do this and they will do that against Russia. They even asked the U.S. for transfer of Typhoon launchers to that are well capable of launching Tomahawk cruise missiles, US-made Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range of 2,000 plus kilometers, right? And Berlin was threatening Russia, by the way, right, with strikes. And they constantly talk about Taurus missiles also. So therefore, theoretically speaking, there is a possibility that Berlin will actually provoke Russian response. And therefore, I mean, truly, I mean, I don't think German youngsters love to die from Russian missiles or drones or bullets or whatever. I don't think they want to die, period. Right? Especially when they know that if not provoked, Russia will not care about Germany whatsoever, right? And will definitely not attack Germany. Anyways, they're gonna fail. They're gonna fail, by the way. I don't think voluntary conscription gonna help them. So therefore, Germany will come up with a mandatory conscription. Give it a year or two, by the way, and they will end these all experiments, and they will become a country where there is a mandatory conscription, which is, I mean, nothing wrong with it, by the way. We have mandatory conscription, right, here in Russia, and many other countries do. So therefore, only question is, I mean, how fit young generation of Germans actually are to serve in any capacity in army, right? How strong they are psychologically and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole different issue. But yes, eventually I think Berlin will come up with a mandatory conscription. Also, dear friends, a few more news before I end this live stream. And well, DD Geopolitics Telegram channel is reporting that President of Republika Srpska, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Milorad Dodik, has announced that he will soon travel to Moscow to request that Russia vetoes the continuation of their EU4 peacekeeping mission in the Bosnia at the next season of the UN Security Council. And well, this might well happen, by the way. This might well happen. Moscow definitely is in a position to stand with the Serbian people now. Unfortunately, in the 90s, Moscow was in no position to do much to help Serbian people, to help Yugoslavia, but things change. Things change, by the way, big time, and I'm quite sure Russia will stand with Serbian people in Republika Srpska and in Serbia itself, right? And therefore, it is might be the case that Russia will veto prolongation of their peacekeeping mandate in Bosnia. And this is important, dear friends. This is important because Western or globalist controlled authorities, federal authorities in Bosnia and Herzegovina, come up with a plan. And this plan is from globalists, of course, to basically change legislation in terms of elections in a way that Serbian people in the Republic of Srpska no longer be able to elect their own leadership. So Bosniaks and the Croats will be in a position after these changes to actually have a say in leadership of Serbia or Republic of Srpska, right? And Serbian people are not happy about it. Leadership of Serbian people in Republic of Srpska are not happy about it. And right now in your screen, dear friends, you can see how this republic is divided. Green on the left side. On this picture, by the way, you see green area, which is Croats and Bosniaks, by the way, and the red line, these red areas, are where predominantly Serbs living. This is the Republic of Srpska, right? If you take a look at the right picture, then you can see ethnic diversity of the republic. Green area is the Bosniaks, blue area is the Croats, red area is the Serbs, right? And due to this legislation that globalists are pushing in Bosnia and Herzegovina, of course, Serbs are not happy. They don't want Bosniaks and Croats to have any say in election of Serbian leadership, right? Understandably so. Why would they want Croats or the Bosniaks to have any say in that? I mean, what the hell, man? Let them elect their own leadership. I mean, that will be okay, but not the leadership of Serbia, right? And therefore, I think Serbian people are on a brink to declare independence from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And basically, this ask from Dodik to Russian side to no longer prolong a peacekeeping mission of the EU4 in Bosnia and Herzegovina is related to potential declaration of the independence by Republika Srpska, right? And just to make sure that peacekeepers are not going to be issue if a military confrontation erupts. They want peacekeepers to be either gone or to no longer have a mandate, right? Or UN mandate. And it might happen, by the way. It might happen, unfortunately, due to criminal policies of the globalists and globalist control puppets in the leadership of Bosniaks and the Croats, by the way, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I mean, Serbian people don't really have much option but to defend themselves and are most likely declare independence. And let the Bosniaks and Croats decide for their fate, for their future. Do they want to be federation or confederation or whatever? Right? It's their right. And the Serbian people should be able to have a say in their own destiny, right? So that's the situation as far as I can tell, by the way. And unfortunately, there is a high chances, high risk, let's say, that we're going to see military escalation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then in short time, which is tragic, of course, because people gonna die. But globalists and globalist puppets among leadership of Croats and Bosniaks are not really leaving any chances for a peace. That's how I see the situation. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Polish F-16 fighter jet crashed yesterday during one of their air shows. Probably many of you already informed about it and have seen a video of this crash. But in case you have not, then let me show you this quite a dramatic video, by the way. That's what happened there, by the way. It was F-16. Nidish Kumar is commenting Sukhoi. No, it was not Sukhoi. It was F-16. And well, probably pilot was doing some barrel roll or something, and he get confused at some point with latitude or altitude, not latitude but altitude of the plane, and you see he was unable to recover and crashed basically on the field. Their pilot, according to reports, pilot died instantly. They're well unfortunate, by the way. I mean, it's not. We are not in a war with Poland, right? Officially, at least, and therefore, I will say this is a unfortunate situation, tragedy for a family of the pilot. But unfortunately, things like that happen time to time. Either pilot makes mistakes, or either there is some technical error in the planes themselves, and and planes are crashing during air shows too, by the way, and no one country is secure from that. I mean, this happens. But yes, minus F-16 and minus pilot in the Polish Air Force. Also, dear friends, before I continue, let me notice, dear friends, that this project exists only as long as I have your support. And well, if you like my work, if you want to help to maintain this project, you can help through several means. You can donate to the project through PayPal and Boosty. You can subscribe, and please do, by the way, subscribe to my Patreon page. It is very important. This project to be in a safe zone. Our community on Patreon needs to double, which is tremendously hard, by the way, because I don't know why, but not that. I mean, process of subscriptions on Patreon is slow, very slow. To build community on Patreon is tremendously difficult. So if you can, dear friends, please subscribe to my Patreon. Link is on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And you can choose your level of monthly support from $5 to up to it's your decision then, right? It starts from $5, and then you make your choice. Hopefully, more and more members will join our Patreon community. And on my part, by the way, as a thank from me, I will definitely try to be very active on the Patreon and make more and more exclusive content for the Patreon page of mine, and also on my Boosty page, by the way. Also, during the live streams, you can use super chat feature. At least for now, there was no super chat as far as I can tell, and there was no donation. Otherwise, Anya would told me. So yes, you can use super chatter or become a premium subscriber on Rumble. By the way, this is also help, right? And so yes, I wanted to highlight. I should do this advertising sort of earlier in the video, not after 1.5 hours, but I just forget about it, and I just have to. By the way, you can probably tell based on my face that I hate when I'm talking about this stuff, donations and subscriptions and stuff. But I just have to if I want to work in this field, right? If I want to save this project. So yes, this is it. All the links, dear friends, are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And let me continue now with some more news. And what is the next? Next is this report, by the way, that as I reported earlier about intention of EU free group to restore sanctions against Iran, they did exactly that. So Britain, Germany, and France have initiated the process of restoring sanctions against Iran after their failure of talks on the Tehran's nuclear program. The foreign ministers of the three countries said in a joint statement that the European three had notified the UN Security Council about this. And well, Russian leadership, by the way, criticized this decision of EU free group. They were not honest in talks. They were not seeking actual de-escalation. And this is not surprise to me. I said a million times before that globalist control regimes in Europe, their allies, their neocon allies in the US, and their allies, the Zionist allies, they want further escalation with Iran. They want regional war in the Middle East to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources. And they will do whatever it takes to achieve this goal, right? So therefore, every step they take is towards escalation, towards provoking further escalating situation in the Middle East, and everything they do is about provoking regional war there on the religious and sectarian lines. Now, fortunately, there is a high risk that they might succeed in that. But Russian side was very critical of this decision of European states. TASS news agency is also reporting that, according to statements of Marco Rubio, U.S. administration remains ready for direct engagement with Iran to resolve the differences over the Tehran's nuclear program. But we all know that this is also false statements, by the way. U.S. was engaged in negotiations with Iran. The sixth round of talks should take place. And there was already talks on the preparations of that sixth round. And at the same time, while Trump and his special envoy Witkoff were engaged in these negotiations with Iran, very same people, by the way, were working together with Israel on the war plans against Iran. So Trump and Witkoff were personally engaged in a deception operation, right? And well, they basically killed any trust to U.S. diplomacy. If anybody had any trust at all, right? But by doing so, by conducting these negotiations with the Iranian side and at the same time being engaged with Israelis on these war plans, I mean, that was despicable steps to take, of course. And no self-respected individual should act this way, right? In life, in general. If you are engaged in some talks, just be real, or don't be engaged then, right? Well, U.S. leadership, Western political class, by the way, they have no morality, no principles, no nothing, right? They are dehumanized completely. I mean, there's nothing human about them or humanistic about them, right? So therefore, of course, no one going to take seriously this statement of Rubio that U.S. is ready for talks with Iran. Really? Also, by the way, well, assault on Venezuela continues. And unfortunately, with the passing of every single day, world is getting closer and closer to potential military escalation in Venezuela and around Venezuela, in the region, basically. And U.S. is deploying more and more assets, maritime assets, in that direction. Also, U.S. More actively using its assets on the ground, right? Especially in the neighboring countries with Venezuela. And I'm afraid it's only a matter of time and they will go ahead with their attack. I can give you statements of press spokesman of the Trump about Venezuela, and you'll be the judge, by the way. I mean, on the matter. And they are using this false narrative of Venezuela being, a major drug trafficking country, and Venezuelan government to be major drug traffickers. While this is a false information, they might be engaged in some ways, some officials in Venezuela in drug trafficking. They might. I mean, I cannot deny such a possibility, isn't it? Because I just don't have information. But what I do know, and what we all have information about, is that, when it comes to drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, human trafficking, and everything else, all that crime, all that criminal activity, I mean, top brasses or top groups that are leading the charge there is U.S. Secret Services, right? It's CIA, by the way. Without CIA, nothing happens in those areas, right? So if Washington wants to actually target drug trafficking, then they should look no any further than Langley. It's not far away, right? But they don't, and that's why, by the way, that's why no one should buy this rhetoric, false narratives that Washington is pushing, that, Venezuela, they are focused on Venezuela because of the drugs. No, man, if they actually want to fight drug trafficking, they would deal with the CIA first, right? But anyways, and we all know this, by the way, we all know this. I did said many times before, isn't it? In Afghanistan during the U.S. occupation, cultivation of opium poppies grow tremendously, right? On unprecedented scales. And once Taliban took control over the Afghanistan, this poppy grow dropped some 90, 95%. Some reports suggest even more, right? So, and who was in charge there, by the way, in Afghanistan? And the CIA, Pentagon, right? They were engaged in drug trafficking. Am I correct? And there was many other evidences before Afghanistan too, by the way, that it is the CIA's black operations that are linked with their drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, and so on. Let me show you this short video.
Nations and many nations in the region have applauded the administration's counter-drug operations and efforts, and the president is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. And as I've said from this podium before, the Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. Maduro is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this drug cartel. He has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into our country, and it is the utmost responsibility of this president and this administration to prevent the illicit flow of drugs into our country and to protect citizens from those deadly poisons.
So yes, they're gonna continue, by the way. They're gonna continue to deal with to escalate with Venezuela, and I'm afraid war is coming there, by the way. I'm afraid war is coming. What else do I have, dear friends? Bookmarked for today's news segment. Well, I will go through headlines at least because yet again, update is quite long. So, U.S. extends loophole to keep banned Russian diamonds coming. United States will allow their importer of certain Russian diamonds until 2026, continuing a notable exception to sanctions on the world's largest producer of raw gems. And this is what US does, by the way, right? They are calling everybody to ban any cooperation, to block or cut any cooperation with Russia. But, well, when it's beneficial for US, by the way, US administration is quite quick to extend any loopholes that they have in place to export whatever they want from Russia, right? And that's what they do. So it is what it is. You remember, you know how US is acting in regards to how hostile US is in regards to India, isn't it, nowadays? And criticizing India for doing business with Russia. And same time, I mean, this is not even hypocrisy, or this is some next level of hypocrisy, right? Exactly in the middle of this crisis that US is engaged with India, they are extending this loophole to keep bringing more and more Russian diamonds or whatever else they are buying, by the way. And they are buying quite stuff here in Russia, right? Still. So it is what it is. And dear friends, I do have several news left, but I will share this rest of the news. And they are relevant news, by the way. I will share those news in today's second update that I will have on my Patreon and Boosty pages. And so if you, and please consider to join us, by the way. Please consider to join our community on Patreon and Boosty. That will be very helpful. And so that's it, I guess, for today's news segment. 1 hour and 39 minutes. It's too long, by the way, too longer. I have to somehow do live streams in hours time because this is too longer. There was any donation or there? Oh, there was. There was donation, dear friends, through PayPal, and let me thank Natalia for $25 donation. It's from Bold Eagle, this comment. So thank you very much, Bold Eagle. and Natalia for $25 donation. I appreciate your attention and support. Thank you. And comment is there is no comment. I cannot see. So thank you very much for donation, Bald Eagle and Natalia. I appreciate your support. And now, dear friends, for a couple of minutes, I will engage there, if I may, with community conversation in a chat. I will react on some questions or the comments that I will spot that are directed to me. And again, dear friends, you can use super chat feature to send any question you want or any commentary or any other platform. By the way, you can send your question through PayPal or Boosty if you want to. Any support helps, of course. And well, let me go through chat now. Once again, thank you very much for your attention, dear friends, for your time. And I'm already scrolling, by the way. Here, I see a question from Voivoda. Do you think Russia should give more military support to Venezuela, just as the USA and their combined West is giving military and financial assistance to Ukraine? I hope it does. Спасибо, Bratushka. Voivoda is commenting. Thank you for the question. And well, it depends. It depends. If we don't know what kind of agreements there was in place between, if any, during the recent talks between Moscow and Washington in Anchorage, Alaska, right? If by chance this America First force that should be in charge, right, in US right now, if Washington under the leadership of this America First forces agree with Moscow on concessions before Russia to make sure that Russia will not seek revenge. If Washington agree that they're going to pull out US from this proxy war, then in that case, yet again, if these agreements actually are in place, I'm speculating now, isn't it? But I can see possibility that maybe during those talks, by the way, on maybe not necessarily presidents of two countries, but experts did spoke about these topics, then maybe Russian side said, you know what, if you're going to pull out from this proxy war against Russia, if you're going to agree on the concessions, and this is our terms, by the way, then we can promise that we will not seek revenge on a state level against the US anywhere on this planet. And if Washington agree on that, right, which might happen, then I don't think Russia will provide Venezuela with any more weapons on the state level, by the way. Right? I don't think Russia will be engaged in war against US and will use Venezuela as its proxy. Yet again, if there is agreement on a state level between Moscow and Washington, but I'm not sure that this agreement exists. I'm not sure sides went this far in the negotiations, and therefore, if US will attack Venezuela before pulling out from this proxy war and agreeing on tremendous concessions to Russia for all the harm that was done by the US to Russian citizens, Russian society, Russian state, then in that case, yes, US will have a hard time, by the way, in Venezuela. So Pentagon or US military should think about it, and US society should think about it, right? This is a double-edged sword, US couldn't do it to us. They can use Ukraine as a proxy against us. Well, we can play this game too. And we can use Venezuela or any other country, by the way, for that matter, as a proxy against US. And this would not benefit anybody, right? Definitely not Russia and US itself. But yet again, if US will not agree on the concessions to Russia, big concessions, by the way, so that Russia will seek no revenge on the state level, then Russia will seek revenge on the state level. And that means that Russia will use any opportunity to harm US anywhere in this world, by the way, rightfully so, right? And that would be retaliation. That would be retaliation. I remind you, dear friends, that last time US went in a big war was Afghanistan, right? And even though Russia had the opportunity to help Taliban, right, big time, to kill as many US or NATO troops there as possible, Russia did not assist Taliban to do so. There was a rumors, false narratives that was spread in the West, right, that Russia is paying money to a Taliban to kill as many US officers as possible. This is all freaking nonsense, right? Rumors, by the way. We all understand that. If Russia wanted to help them, then situation would be very different. Taliban won anyways, right? But what Russia did, by the way, many people in the West don't know that Russia was actually helping US with logistics in its operation in Afghanistan on initial stages when they were fighting Al-Qaeda and the Taliban too, right? And in Ulyanov, by the way, there was an interim military base that was basically for a short time given to NATO, not under control, but NATO was allowed to use that military base with the airfield in Ulyanov to provide logistical support to their troops in Afghanistan. That's what Russia did. But how US pay back? They attack us. They sacrifice Ukraine, sacrifice Ukrainian, and then began using them as a proxy, right? So therefore, by the way, if US current leadership wants things to change, if America First Forces wants situation to change, they have to agree on the concessions before Russia. They have to pull out the country from the war against Russia. They have to agree on the concessions. And I'm talking about trillions, by the way. I'm not talking about some little stuff. I'm talking about trillions that US will have to pay one way or another, either with direct investments or with technology transfers or other ways. But we are talking about trillions. That's it. And if Washington agrees on that, and they should, by the way, if America First Forces are clever enough, they should. If they agree on that, then Russia will seek no revenge on the state level. Private groups will, anyways, but there will be no state level hostility, and therefore Venezuela or any other country that US might get engaged militarily with will not become a Russian proxy. Otherwise, they might. Sorry for a long answer, but that's my take on the situation. And I am answering you from a statehood standpoint, right? My personal take is not really matter, but I think from statehood standpoint, Russian position should be as I just described. If US agrees to withdraw from this proxy war against Russia and agrees on the concession, then we should not seek revenge on the state level. Private groups will seek revenge anyways, right? But that's the private groups. But Russia should seek no revenge on the state level, which is a big deal, of course. But if US continues to be a part of a proxy war against Russia, then of course Russia should use every opportunity to revenge our citizens, by the way, lives of our citizens, blood of our citizens, everywhere in this world, by the way, whenever opportunity comes around, Venezuela or whenever. That's my take. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, how bad is water crisis in Iran? I don't know, Nidish. There are certain topics that I have no idea, absolutely, and I'm not going to pretend that I know anything. I don't know. I literally don't know nothing about water crisis in Iran. So sorry, Nidish, but I know there are topics. I never pretend to be like some sort of a genius that knows everything. No, man, I'm just a human, ordinary one, and therefore there is a lot of stuff that I have no freaking idea. I would love to know, but unfortunately, I don't. Alexander G is commenting them. That's a whole inventory of NATO, and Alexander is commenting on the number of destroyed enemy military equipment that I spoke about in the beginning of the live stream. And yes, it is. I mean, numbers are just wow, crazy, isn't it? And I believe those numbers are conservative. I believe those numbers are conservative numbers. In reality, I think significantly more military equipment of enemy was destroyed. Every day, by the way. I mean, I'm no longer sharing all the videos on my Telegram and Twitter page, all the videos of destruction of enemy forces and enemy military equipment, but literally on daily basis. At least, I don't know, I am seeing, because I'm preparing constantly, isn't it, for updates, and I'm constantly monitoring the news. Every single day, I'm seeing at least 5 to 10 videos, by the way, compilations in it with the destruction of enemy manpower and military equipment. It's so many videos, by the way, on internet that I'm no longer sharing those. I very rarely I'm sharing some videos about military activity. And every day, based on those videos, you can just literally calculate, right, how many military equipment is being destroyed. Tens, tens, by the way. Probably every day Kyiv regime is losing from 50 to 100 different type of military equipments, from pickup trucks and Max Pros to tanks and artillery pieces and so on and so on. So at one point, they actually, Europeans going to run out of military equipment to send to the regime. And that's why I'm saying, without US, I don't think globalist controlled European regime is going to be able to prolong this conflict more than I don't know, 3 5 months, maybe year max. And and if so, then they literally have to take out almost everything from their own armies and send to Kyiv regime, that theoretically speaking still can mobilize forcefully quite a number of people. I mean, they are allegedly forcefully mobilizing 10 to 15,000 every month, right? And they can maintain this rate, maybe a little lesser, for quite some time. Because allegedly there are still 20 plus million people live on Kyiv controlled territory, which gives you understanding of potential for the forceful mobilization. So without US, by the way, globalist controlled European regimes would not be able to sustain this war more than a year max. I mean, and even then, they have to literally demilitarize themselves completely. US does has massive stockpiles, by the way. US does has thousands and thousands of M60 tanks, even not just Abrams tanks of different types, but US still has thousands and thousands of M60 tanks, thousands and thousands of Abrams tanks, somewhere in the desert, by the way, in stocks, right? Thousands and thousands of infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers. So US does has a lot of equipment, yes, but European states don't. European states don't. I'm scrolling, dear friends. And if I spot question, I will like. My apologies if I miss your question, dear friends. I'm not ignoring no question intentionally. Sometimes some members think I'm ignoring some questions. No, I'm not, by the way. I'm just scrolling fast in this window, by the way, on StreamYard. I can see comments from both chats, YouTube chat and Rumble chat. And I'm just scrolling. And if I see capital letters, I'm stopping. If question is to me, then I'm reacting on it. If not, then not. French Flanagan is asking Luan, what are the chances of Hungary joining BRICS? I think right now chances may be very slim, very little, but with with more and more escalation in relationships between Budapest and Brussels, between Budapest and other EU member states, these chances will increase. It also depends, by the way. We should keep in mind geography of the countries, right? Hungary alone will not join BRICS because of the geography. They will hardly they would want to be isolated, right? Or not to have a direct link to BRICS space, right? So therefore, if Hungary, let's take a look at their map, by the way. If Hungary, Slovakia, by the way, Serbia, and Chernogoria will together, will get together, began working on idea to, create some economical sphere, economical пространство, economical space, and then together apply to join BRICS. In that case, it might work out because Chernogoria, by the way, has access to sea. Serbia is isolated; it's landlocked, but Chernogoria does has access to the sea. And by the way, if Republika Srpska will get independence or declares independence from Bosnia and Herzegovina, then I believe, if I remember map correctly, by the way, I believe Republika Srpska will also have access to a sea, Adriatics, by the way, right? And in that case, with access to the sea, of course, and Republika Srpska might work or even join Serbia. So in that case, yes, not just Hungary, but number of countries, actually, number of European countries might join the BRICS. But Hungary alone, Hungary alone will have very difficult time to do this. Together with Slovakia, Serbia. I mean, let me open them up, by the way, because it's just easier in that way, right, to explain what I mean. But I think I remember map correctly, by the way. But let's take a look, anyways. So this is map, isn't it? So this is a map, and well, this is Hungary here, right? This is Hungary. So if Hungary, Slovakia, as I said, Serbia here, and Chernogoria, which is here, by the way, and Chernogoria, as you can see, dear friends, has a coastal line, and also Republika Srpska, which if I remember correctly, has a little bit of a coastal line, or should have, right? But in any ways, if Chernogoria is a part of it, then, well, access to the sea, to the Adriatics, will definitely give them good chances to be a successful part of the BRICS. Slovakia, Hungary, Serbia, and Montenegro, by the way. Chernogoria is in Russian, in English it's Montenegro, right? And also Republika Srpska. But Hungary alone, just take a look. By the way, it's completely landlocked. So Hungary alone would not, even if they want to. By the way, it's just technically extremely difficult, right? To be a success story. Of course, Hungary can join BRICS. It's a political decision, but to make this decision success story, Hungary needs access to the sea. And the only way this might happen is if Hungary is cooperating with Slovakia, and Budapest and Bratislava are on the same page on many issues, by the way, nowadays. Also, if Serbia will join, and Montenegro, and Republika Srpska from Bosnia and Herzegovina, or maybe entire Bosnia and Herzegovina Republic, then that will change our situation drastically, right? But will globalists allow this to happen? No, man, they will go crazy. They will just go crazy, by the way. They will go. They will do anything to stop such a process if they actually see threat of that. So this is my take, dear friend. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm correct. I don't know, but that's what I think on the matter. What else? Do I miss question there? I see your comments, dear friends. During the stream, I cannot monitor their comments constantly, at least, and unfortunately, we spotted later on that there were some issues with the sound. Hopefully, sound is good now. I guess operational memory of their notebook is becoming overloaded with so many windows being open or something. Also, Spyros is asking, hi Luan, is Assad still in Russia? I believe yes. I think so. There was a report earlier on some sources, some media sources, some Telegram channels, that his wife went to London. His wife went to UK. There was such reports, but nothing about Assad himself, that he left the country. So probably he's still in Russian Federation. And if he has political asylum, by the way, and he does, right? Then I don't think he would be able to travel that much, especially in the countries that might harm him, in countries that he might not be safe, because it's obligated. Once Russia gives a refugee status to someone, right, political refugee status or whatever, then countries are obligated to protect you, right? So therefore, most likely Assad will remain in Russia for quite a while. He might travel to friendly nations, by the way. He might go to Belarus, or he might go to other friendly countries, right? But I believe he's still in Russia. And by the way, this Turkish proxy regime in Damascus is demanding Assad to be handed over to them, to a new regime in Syria, and Moscow says no, it's just not happening. Understandably so, by the way. I mean, Assad is Assad in many ways, some may consider to be a big failure. How he was unable to organize state institutions in a manner that corruption. How he was unable to fight corruption, first of all, at least effectively enough to make sure that state institutions are still operational. I don't know. How come that defense forces of or army of Syria literally collapsed in a few days, man? This is I don't know. But Russia, I guess, due to historical ties with Syria, give him a secure roof and once this obligation was taken by Russia, then Russia will keep this obligation and will protect him. And if Assad somehow will, anyway go somewhere and then gets, I don't know, end up in trouble, then that's on him. But otherwise, Russia will protect him. So, dear friends, I see a question from Dylan Thomas. Levan, do you think that the 50-year-old Polish F-16 might have had some airframe issues? They were going to donate it to Zelensky anyways. Yes, I mean, I don't know how old that plane was. Maybe it was some later generation plane or something, but based on video, I mean, I already took that video out. Based on video footage that I shared earlier, I mean, it looks to me like it was air show, right? And this plane was doing some sort of a barrel roll when plane goes up and does the circle, right? And while coming down, probably pilot get disoriented. He maybe lost control over the altitude, because I mean another 100 meters, maybe 50 meters, maybe even would be enough to complete the barrel, right? So it didn't. It more looked like a human error than a technical error, to me personally. But yet again, no matter how much I love military aviation and stuff, I'm not a pilot. I'm not a military expert, and therefore my understanding of the situation could be mistaken. So maybe it was some technical error with the plane, but from what I see, it seems like pilot just get disoriented for a second, and on such a speed, by the way, on such a low altitude. It only takes 1 second. If you lose concentration even for a second, that's it, by the way. That's it. You are crushed. And it seems like pilot just lost concentration for a second there, and that was it. But yet again, I'm not a pilot. I'm not a military expert, so maybe I'm wrong on that. But it does looks like he was trying to do this barrel, and he just miscalculated their altitude. And dear friends, this is it for now. This is it for news segment. More than 2 hours long stream. Hopefully you did like the video, dear friends, news segment, and if so, please click that like button, and after stream ends, leave some commentary. Thank you for your time, for your attention. For members of our Patreon and Boosty community, I will say that later on today I will have a second news update in a walk and talk style, most likely. And so, yes, that's it for now, dear friends. Thank you all. Bold Eagle, thank you very much for your donation. Thank you all, and bye for now. See you tomorrow.